posts endpoints with pagination and limits, because infinite scrolls are so hot right now. Docs are sexy. They deserve their own fan club. Expect chaos, epic Q&A, and a wild ride. The first 10 commenters get a shout out. Don't sleep on this. Join the API revolution or regret it forever. Mic drop. Let me see if I can share the comment overlay. So if you comment, I think it should now show up. And let's share screen and start coding. Got my app running. First goal, update the docs, start with the end in mind. Update the docs for both fans endpoint and post endpoint with the new parameters we expect to add. Then go into our API endpoint and implement the changes we've updated in the docs. And then finally, build out a page to demonstrate the new fans endpoint, showing little PFP circles of every single fan across all social platforms for a given artist. I'll make a new chat because it's a new day. Please prepare your scratch pad to implement step 37? Question mark. I use control backspace to get it to stop. It's currently looking for existing documentation, and it's looking, oh, I'm sorry, it was going in the right way. Scratchpad's been updated. It's going to update. It's got its requirements, updating that doc, available parameters, page number, page size limit, current status. It only includes the account ID parameter and doesn't mention we want to update the page to include the new parameters, update the constants to include the new parameters, update the examples. It'll update the page, default of 1, number of records, default of 20, include type, status, and description for each parameter. Update code examples, update all code examples to include the pagination parameters, show how to use these parameters in each language, yada, yada. Sounds about right. By the time I finish reading, I think it's already gone and made all the updates. Seems directionally correct, so I'll just accept. Nice. I prefer this. This looks awesome. Pagination, total count, page limit, total pages. Nice. Wow. Awesome. Pagination object, the pagination metadata for the response from the API. We'll include a total count, which is the total number of records available. In this case, the total fans that a given artist has. We'll also include the page so that you can understand which page of your overall list of fans are you looking at. And then the limit, which is the number of records per page. And so you can modify these in your request to be able to get specific pages, and it just allows the API to be faster by only sharing a small amount of data, because right now most musicians, even on a small independent scale, get up to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of relationships on their graph. And so to just allow some pagination allows us to keep requests fast while allowing musicians to also have a lot of customization over which part of their data they want to have access to in whatever app they're building and however their agents are going to be interacting with this data. So one of our goals is to make this data very accessible to other AI agents, whether that's through MCP protocol servers or through API requests like I'm building out right now. We really want to lean into that. A lot of musicians are going to be working with their own AI agents, and we want the tools that we're building to support those use cases. So I think these changes look good. It looks like it updated Scratchpad to already mark that it probably did everything. Yeah, so it's marked this task as complete. And then it already mentions that it's going to need to do a similar thing for step 38. Let's check out if it worked. I see page and limit. Required note. We love to see that it's not. Gives the defaults right in there. Super easy. Request. Response format. Includes the fans object, and it includes pagination info. Makes the data much more manageable in smaller bytes instead of trying to send very large amounts of data in one single request, which might slow down the ability for musicians' pages to be accessible. Whole bunch of fans info, and then we also now include the total count. I think this looks awesome. I'm going to commit these. Oh yeah, let me see how it looks on mobile. We got to be starting mobile first. Okay. I really like that we make our table a vertical list of parameters to make it fit on mobile. I think it was a nice little tweak that Cursor made on its own. But I can read it and it looks like it'll show up fine on anybody's phone. If they need to scroll over, they can scroll over here. If they need to scroll over, we've also got the copy button to make it easy. And you just easily switch between whatever language you want to be writing in. And we've already got the request pre-written for you to go ahead and make these calls and get this data. So let's commit it and test it out and ship it. Let's go to roadmap. Let me make sure I'm on my branch already. Fans pagination limits. Copy the entire task. Click. I'm thinking about ignoring the Scratchpad file because it's just AI written changes, and I'm gonna ignore the Scratchpad file. So let's not update that. Just these two. And I don't want to undo those changes. Git ignore. I just don't want them to be committed. Miscellaneous. Scratchpad.md. There's git ignore. So what I need to do is copy the file. I'll just copy the contents. Scratchpad.md. Delete the file. Add the deletion of the file. Now if I can, just Command Z, and now I've got the file back, but it's not going to prompt the change because I've added it to the git ignore, and so now we're just deleting it altogether. I forgot to add in a commit message, so let me go back here, do that step again, copy the commit message, paste the commit message, click commit, one-click sync up to GitHub. We can mark this as done with an X. Now let's run over to GitHub inside of Recoupable. And I will open up Slack. Go into the repo. Open up the pull request. Create the pull request. Copy the pull request, go to Slack. Slack's still opening. In which case, next step is finding an Omber cell. Here's Slack. Let's review the files changed. Updated the git ignore to ignore the scratch pad, which is written by the AI assistant. Update our constants to change the code example to include pagination limits, as well as the param section to give examples. All of our different code examples across all different languages were updated. We show that it's not required, and we show what it defaults to for both params. And we delete the scratch pad from the GitHub repository because it is an AI written file and it's not necessarily important to commit to everybody. It looks like the build has completed. So I'll go to the domain /docs/fans. And I can see all those changes were added for page and limit. You can see the example request also includes it. Is Slack open? Slack's open, so I'll go to code review. And let's Recoup. Okay, Google, volume 7. First ship of the day. Nice work. Okay. Next up, I'm going to do the same thing for the post page. Just while we're here, you know. check out to the branch, publish it, trigger a build. Pull that merge change from main. Sync those changes as well. Please prepare your scratch pad for step 38. I want to say that first task of the day was a one-shot prompt. That all I have to say was please update your scratch, please prepare your scratch pad to implement step 37. And then it updated its scratch pad. And by the time I was done reading its initial updates to the scratch pad, it had finished fixing it. So that was a one shot, and I can scratch that off my list. There are 4 other tasks I would like to do today. That was a great start. Let's see if we can continue the momentum. Next step, update post documentation for paginations and limits. We'll update the docs to include comprehensive details for pagination and limit parameters. Include information about available parameters for controlling pagination, examples of how to use these parameters, expected behavior when these parameters are applied. Current status, the post API documentation currently only includes the account ID and does not mention any pagination or limit options. We need to update the docs route to include the new parameters in the parameters table. We need to update the constants to include the new parameters in the code examples. And then we need to update the example response to show the pagination metadata. It's going to update both of those pages to include the defaults. It'll update the types, the status, and the descriptions, follow the same structure as the existing docs for fans. And then it is probably already done, and it's about to update its scratch pad if I had to guess. Let's step 38. We can see that it's now done the same updates for the posts route. I'm just going to accept because I have relatively high confidence after its last implementation. It then went into the constants file and made the exact same updates. Let's accept this. And then it updated its scratch pad to say that it finished by the time I finished reading over its changes. Next steps, after completing this task, we'll implement the fans page, which will display the results from API fans endpoint in a visually pleasing manner. This is what I like about putting my roadmap in here, is it can read the next step from the roadmap and automatically prep its own scratch pad, knowing the next task I'm about to prompt it with, just further guiding it. I was talking with someone last night, and they were talking about how guiding these AI agents is like guiding a baby. They were talking about using it specifically in a video generation format. And they were like, you give it very simple tasks, and it's like guiding a baby when it's first learning to walk. You just kind of like, you're there to keep it on its feet so that it doesn't fall off for very simple steps. You don't want to give it a super big task and like let it go because it'll fall over. You really got to stay there and keep with your hands on it. And so what this feedback loop is allowing me to do right now is I just define tickets. I one-shot a prompt using my voice into cursor and tell it to just update its scratch pad. And then I review its scratch pad, and it follows the line of thinking. And this scratch pad is where we both this is the middleware for where we communicate. In addition to here, this is more like it's active. The right is more like it's active, what it's doing, where its attention is at. Whereas over here on the left is more its overall plan. And so I would call this like the operating agent. This is like the manager. This scratch pad is how it is guiding itself. This is the manager agent. And then on the right is the implementation agent. The right is where it's actually making all the changes and going step by step and taking the managed plan and then bringing it to life. So it looks like it finished it. Let's check out if we can check out docs/posts. We're not having any comments, so I'm going to go ahead and hide the overlay to maximize the amount of space being shown in the stream. Post API, we got a few errors. Hydration, bunch of hydration. Let me try refreshing. And I'll also close down some of these open tabs. Post endpoint, retrieve all social media posts from an artist across all platforms. We have a get endpoint. We now have the parameters of artist account ID, which is required. That's the unique identifier of the artist that we want to be fetching all the posts for. Then we have the page number, which is not required, and that is the page to retrieve. Default will be 1, so it'll give you the first page by default. If you want to specify a different page, you can. And then limit, the number that you get from each page. You can have a default of 20 if you don't include this. This is not a required param, but if you want to include it, you can get whatever limit you want with a maximum of 100 for now. We've got a raw curl that you can throw into a terminal, Python code for you to copy if you're writing in Python, JavaScript code if you want JavaScript with no external dependencies. It's using the native fetch for JavaScript. And then for TypeScript, we've got your types defined for both the input as well as for the response. So we have all those for then you to get the JSON response. We include the status, the posts, and the pagination info. The new update are these pagination options, which is the metadata for the response on pagination. It includes the total count, which is going to be the total number of posts available. The page is the page number, the limits the number of records per page, and then the total pages is the total number of pages available. Looking good to me. Let's go ahead and push these changes. It looks like we one-shotted the prompt again. So we can go to roadmap and loop the cycle. Put in X in the box, save the changes, copy all the changes. And I think this is where I'm going to introduce my first sway from we're at 23 minutes. We have not hit 50% of our tasks. I think we're on track. Let's keep going according to plan. No straying from the plan yet. Let's sync the changes. We'll close all these other pages just to keep our work environment clean. And now I will go back to Slack. Let's bring Slack up, less of cursor, more of Slack. Go back to Brave, go back to the main repository. And then from here, it should auto prompt me to open up the pull request. It did. Create the pull request. Put the pull request, hashtag Recoup. Put the pull request in there. Put the linear ticket in there. Ticket link. Send it off. And now I want to check out the Vercel deployment preview. If this one goes according to plan, the next step is going to be going into our backend code base and actually implementing the changes from the docs. And so the nice thing is I can give the backend the links to the deployed page and say, implement the changes based off the documentation which already exists. Make very small steps for the baby, the overall agent, just like this general hive mind of what it is we're building, the product. That way it's easy for the AI. We're building the product and making it easy for the AI to communicate with the product. /docs/posts. Post API docs, retrieve all posts. Let's make sure we're viewing this. I'm just going to focus on mobile to really emphasize that our focus is mobile first, because if it looks good on mobile, it's going to look good natively on desktop. And so I would rather focus on mobile, which is the size that people usually forget about and then ends up looking bad. That way we make sure we focus on the most limited environment and trust that if we focus on the most limited constrained design space, it will organically look better on bigger, more spacious design spaces like a desktop, as well as providing for increased accessibility to where 80% or 90% of traffic comes from globally. Post API docs, retrieve all the social media posts from an artist across all platforms. Does it include the page? It does. It says that it's not required. And then in our response, pagination info, I think this looks good. Let me make sure I've shared all this info. Test here. It's going to probably pop up that. I want to close that. Take a screenshot of the new parameters. And parameters like page and limit are now included in both the request and the response object within the documentation. Let's ship it. I don't think I reviewed the actual code changes. Just to make sure it didn't throw in any really weird code changes, I'll give it a quick one over on the code. Yeah, it looks like I didn't review it. That's on me. The page number to retrieve, the number of documents, simple updates. Not a lot changed. I'm happy with the code changes. Let's ship it. Task number 2, shipped for this chill Saturday ship. I usually don't get this much momentum early on. We're under 30 minutes. We got 2 tasks out the door. They were relatively easy. They were both docs. We got them one-shotted, which was nice. No feedback required. I don't even know what model we're using. I don't know if we're in Claude 3.7 or if we're in Claude 3.5. But we are cruising. Next up, let's go back out, move the done task to the bottom of the list. Next up, we're going to implement the changes. Gulp. Let's crash the currently running repo so that we don't have too many servers running while we are streaming. Let's fully kill the terminal just to make sure we don't have anything running. We'll drop this down. We'll bring the agent APIs up. And let's get started on the roadmap side. Let's open up on the API side, we'll open up a new chat to get started for today. Let me see if I already have the cursor rules set up. It looks like I do not have the cursor rules set up. We have the original file instead of our new example. And so I do need to quickly update our cursor rules. And so what that looks like is before cursor rules had a .cursor rules file, but as of the latest versions of Cursor, you have a directory of cursor rules. And so that allows us to have more fine-grained control over what rules apply to what files when you are working with your agent. So for example, for me, I always give it a scratchpad file where we put our reusable lessons for the project. It specifies this file and it's applied in a global context for every single query. I define rules for it, like an env file, and trying to keep everything following the single responsibility principle. And then there's also a section for rules that were learned by Cursor. Mostly we focus on the fact that there is a scratchpad.md file, which currently does not exist, but I'll be adding now. New file, scratchpad.md. And this is the file where Cursor goes to make all of its scratchpad changes. So I can just like make this scratchpad, save this, and let Cursor fill it in however it wants later on. We can see that it's already linked it. So I just did a command click and it worked. And then the other one is TypeScript. Just letting it know it's a TypeScript. In this context, not Next.js. So let's find what its cursor rules are and bring over its existing cursor rules into the new document structure. Okay, Google, volume 4. I feel like I'm not going to be shot. Okay, so it's talking about Python tools. I actually don't think our cursor rules are well written in this repository. So I think we can only improve from here if I delete this. Actually, so let's add its cursor rules. It looks like it has a lot here. It's got a lot here. So let's take that. Let's take all of its rules that it has written for itself and move those over, and then we'll throw out everything else. Cursor learned rules, paste that, save it. Now we can delete the old cursor rules file. Let's go over to make sure we're on the right branch. Right now we're on main branch. We don't want to be there. But we can pull this down. We can copy this branch name from linear and use that in the GitHub tab with 3 dots to check out to creating a new branch for that branch name. We want to add the deletion of cursor rules. We don't want the scratchpad.md, so we'll add scratchpad.md over here. Add the git ignore, and now add both files in our cursor rules directory. I update our definition of cursor rules to follow the new latest upgrades from Cursor in the .cursor directory. Looks like a double. Close enough. Fans. We'll start with fans. Sounds good. Let's publish it. Let's come back to our roadmap and see if we have now set it up properly. I come over to my chat and I say, here's Scratchpad for step 45. So far, today we've been able to one prompt all of the tasks that we've wanted to do. Let's see if we can get a one prompt on this side. A couple notes I'll add will be the latest deployed doc file. And so I'll go to chat.recoupable.com/docs/fans in this, and then I'll copy fans, and I'm going to add it to both the roadmap as well as over here on the right to make sure that it can read those, and I'm going to tell it to reference those in its decision making. Docs with pagination param requirements define. Reference these docs for the pagination params. I'm nervous about this one. I'm giving it a little bit more guidance. Let me see what it's defaulting to. We're using 3.7 Sonnet, so the latest and smartest version of Sonnet. Let's just do it. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time setting this up. We're at 36 minutes overall. We're shifting to the bulk of the API updates. This is supposed to be an optimization step, so I guess I shouldn't be. Whoa, it's using a puppeteering navigation tool to open up a page browser. Let me first check the documentation to understand it. I guess it's going to open up Puppeteer, which is probably going to open up a browser somewhere. Is that true? Not seeing. Timed out. Okay, that would make sense. Okay, so it so far has not been able to read the documentation file I gave it. It tried to use a tool that did not work. And so I think I want to remove that tool so that it doesn't try to use that tool anymore. It's diving deeper, doing some research. We've completed 2 tasks out of our goal of 5 today. So far, we've updated our docs to update the API endpoint for fans, to add pagination and limits. And now we've updated posts to add pagination and limits. And now let's see if we can actually update these APIs to be better than they were before. Search the web. Let's also check the documentation. Yeah, that sounds great. Remember that preference. Go ahead and search. Just search the web. Wonder what it got back. I don't know if it got get socials by IDs. I'll now prepare the scratchpad for implementing pagination limits. If it doesn't get it, I think I'm just gonna copy the docs and send it to it. You know, I'm just gonna copy it like this and show it the TypeScript interface. Yeah. Let's see how it implements it. Scratchpad, implement, let's accept the file. Implementing pagination according to requirements. Current implementation, we have the fans endpoint declared in routes. That sounds correct. Get fans function calls get artist fans, which is inside a Supabase lib. That retrieves all the fans for an artist by getting the segment IDs for an artist, then getting the fan social IDs using segments, and getting social details using get socials by IDs. Currently, there's no pagination or limit functionality implemented. Requirements, we want to add pagination and limit parameters to the API fans endpoint. We want to follow the documentation that's defined there based on the search results. Common pagination parameters include limit, page, before and after. That is not what we're doing. So here's the docs page I sent you. Scratchpad first to update requirements. It was going in the right direction, and then when we got to requirements, I wasn't super happy. Requirements. Let's see if it's able to figure out that raw kind of bulk text I sent it. It's going back to its Scratchpad before we make any changes. Caught it first because it didn't actually read the docs that I sent it. So it seems like I have not made the page agent friendly enough, or I did not format my prompt correctly, or my tools are MP. I hit a little bit of friction. It was not a one prompt. a one-shot prompt. We are now having some updates only to the section where I wanted some updates. Add pagination endpoint parameters following the API endpoint according to the official docs. Artist account ID, page, and limit. Perfect. JSON response should follow the format. Notice that the response object fans instead of socials. For the array of social profiles, the pagination object should include total count, page limit, total pages, implementation plans, update the get fans to accept those parameters, update the get artist function in the lib to accept the pagination parameters, modify the get socials by IDs function to support the pagination, add the pagination parameters to the function signature, update the Supabase query to include pagination logic, update the response format to match the documentation, rename socials to fans in the response. I don't know that I want it to rename. I guess I'm not using it yet, and it does make sense to have some level of consistency. But the goal of this is to return socials. And so I actually think we want to keep it as social. It's not a major deal, so I'll let it go in whatever direction it feels. Update pagination metadata to include total count and total pages. Ensure all required fields are included in the response. Test the implementation with various pagination parameters. Update the function, get fans. Oh, cool. And now it's got its implementation details. Pulling out limits in page with default values. Parsing the limits. Throwing in the pagination into the get artist fans. Updating the response. Get artist segments. Segment IDs. And then we get fan social IDs. And then we do our pagination before we go and get all of those socials by IDs. Update the response interface and get artist fans. Looks good. Just copy the last little line and say, please implement these changes in the actual code. This is prompt 3. Let's see if prompt 3 gets us to implementing these changes according to the requirements. Overall goal is that our API endpoint gets faster and more manageable for the requests that we're making. I'm curious if there are any ways we could be optimizing. I'm going to make a step 44.5 P1 optimize for response speed. Optimize Supabase queries for response speed. Actual responses take, I don't know, 5+ seconds. Required response in less than 500 milliseconds. You know, like we want this to be fast. Looks like by the time I finished writing that, it has gone through and made its updates. Let's check out the updates it made. We've got new types for pagination type, and pagination is now included in the response for get artist fans. Pagination options for the input were also added. updated the docs to include that in the function docs. Returns object containing status, array of unique fan, socials, and pagination metadata. We automatically default to a limit in a page. If there's an error, we include a pagination response. If there's an error, we include a pagination response. And then if we get a success, we calculate the pagination. And then we only get social IDs by that paginated list of socials. And then we return the pagination info, return back the social status. And then we've got another error. One thing I don't like is that it has defined the same thing multiple times. And let me briefly ask it that. Defined the error for pagination, the object, multiple times inside of get artist fans, period. Could you please dry up this code so that that error object is only defined once and that reference is used across the get artist fans function, question mark? Let's just send that kind of raw, see if it understood. Yep, that's what I wanted. Less is more, simple is best, small is beautiful. If we don't redefine the same thing multiple times, whoa, that was more changes than I was expecting. Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting. It looks like less line of code overall. Let me see. We've got 94 lines of code now. If we revert before, we had over 100. So it does seem like this has given us a little bit less code. I don't like that we have all these dev comments in here. So I'm going to also tell it, please remove all dev comments from this file. I don't want little dev comments. Code should be self-documenting. But now I'm getting nitpicky. Now I'm going down the rabbit hole of over-reviewing. This will be the last change that I make to remove those docs, and then let's keep moving on. We're at 49 minutes. I try to keep these streams at an hour, so let's. Did it not update? More specific update. No changes are being made. Still no. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll do it myself. Save those changes. Let's see what else was changed. Let's go back before we started getting nitpicky. Get artist fans is where I'm at. We also updated the global controller. Get fans accepts the new parameters. We parse the limits. We use those limits in the call to get fans, and we update our response to include that limit. I'm not sure why we do all this nonsense over here. We should just directly send the response. Let's see what happens if we just directly send the response. Like, what's the difference? Status is result.status. Because it's, okay. So what we really want is response result, and then keep fans because that's a little bit different. And then pagination we can remove. Result.pagination.total. Okay, they are different. Let's undo it. Okay. Let it do its thing. Let's keep that as it is. Save that. Don't touch it. Vibe coding's great until you have to look at the code, and then you want to change the code, and then the vibes get off. It looks like we have implemented all these changes. Let's see if it works by running pnpm start. And then let's open up Postman. Goal is to test this endpoint using the docs so that I can see if pagination works and if the code is any faster. If it is not faster, then I'll go to the next half step. If it is faster, then I'll just move on. Postman's still opening. Little break, gonna eat some Postgres. Hi, baby. Did you hear the little plastic rumbling? Come on up here. I see you licking your lips. Like, oh, he's got something that he can give me. Might. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. Here you go, baby. Okay. Let's go to, I believe this is a get endpoint. Let's copy the example request. Local host 3000. Let's get an artist account ID right here in the top right. I can click on my three dots and get an artist ID. And I can use that inside of a request. And let's see what happens when we send that request. Success. That result was in 1,000 milliseconds, so it was 1 second for a response on my local machine while I'm streaming. And then now that one was a little bit slower. Let's compare that to how it is on the official deployment. Hey, baby. Oh, hey. You can chill here, or you can chill beside me. For right now, I'm going to put a boundary on my desk, okay? I'm using it. We got a little kitty here. We got a kitty break. It's a kitty break. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Nope, not on the desk. Anything you want, just not on the desk. You can chill here. I got a little chair set up for you over to the right. Or you can hang right here. Happy girl. Happy baby. Hi, if you're just tuning in, this is my kitty Solana. She wanted a moment of my time, so this has turned into a cat stream. We're going to maximize the cat in the cat stream. While we are still coding eventually, for right now, it's me and the kitty. She's a happy girl. It's our Sunday together. She wants to come sleep on the desk or play with the crinkly little paper. I said, this is the limit. And so now we're hanging. And her sister's hearing me talking. She's coming over as well. Okay, Google, play Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson. It's a rainy day. Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson is one of my favorite Saturday songs. I know you're already doing that. Stop listening to me after I talk to you. When you try to show, I'm supposed to keep you doing what you're supposed to. Waking up to cold, maybe we could sleep. Make a banana pancake, pretend like it's a weekend. We could pretend it all time. Can't you see that it's just raining? Ain't no need to go outside. Maybe I can lady, mama made a baby. We don't mind the practice, 'cause you're my lady. There's no way outside. We pretend that see that it's just raining. Ain't no need to go outside. We got 3,000 lines of results in 1.4 seconds on the current server. And then it goes down to like 760. Meanwhile, on our local, I really should have copied it. Can I duplicate this? First, let's close the other tabs. Duplicate this tab. You really need to pay attention to the alarm. Wake up slow. Wake up slow. Now we do need to keep in mind that this is running locally, and so it will probably be faster on the deployed environment. But here it's taking like a second, and if I fire it, there it went down 793 milliseconds, 922 milliseconds, 611 milliseconds, 623. And then if I fire it on our deployed version, we get 682 milliseconds, 702 milliseconds. So, I mean, I feel like the fans API is already fast for me with 3,000 records or 3,000 lines coming versus 300. So now I'm wondering if we even wanted to do this change on fans. I guess I did not do a benchmark check beforehand. How many fans do I have in total? Let me try to query this and see if I can actually get the record count. If I just go to this domain, it'll perform a GET request on it. And then I can collapse it in the browser. It should tell me the total number of fans that I'm pulling in this request. Just collapse socials. Okay, I do only have 319, so I don't have too many fans. I wonder who would be a bigger, testing this on a bigger artist might give me different results. So at a minimum, it looks like we are not degrading performance. So let's proceed with this change because now we at least have the pagination. I'm not going to work on optimizing. What I will do as a result of the testing we just did is I'll update the roadmap. Instead of 44.5, I'll make it 45.5 because I think the fans endpoint is actually quite slow right now. And let's verify that as well before we implement this. But I just want to take a quick second to review if our endpoints are sufficiently fast or if we need to still speed them up. So it looks like this is working, 319 records on our deployed version. And if we test the localhost version, let's copy this and open up a new tab and go to the localhost version. So right now we're getting all the records, we're getting all 319 in one shot. We're updating it to include pagination so that you're only getting a subset. And so you can see we only got 20 fans this time. We can see that we still got the total count of 319, and we actually got that as a specified value. We got that we're on page 1. There's 20 items per page, total of 16 pages. If I want this to go up to, let's say, 100, we then should see that we only have 3 pages. We have 4 pages because you have 3 pages of 100 and then 1 page of 19. And so it looks like these parameters are working. Let's ship this. Copy the note, put an X in the box, add the changes, paste in my message, click commit. I guess I didn't add the files. Add the files, click commit, sync the changes. Okay, Google, play the album Vincent by FKJ. No. Okay, Google, play Kurunga Bin Radio. Let's see if that works. Vibe coding the audio is very important. Okay, Google, volume up. Okay. Fans, where's posts? Posts. What happened? That's weird. Put it in the wrong place. Let's move this one more time and move it down here. It's actually going to be 46.5. Not that matters. Let's open up the pull request, get this shipped, keep moving on our goals. So far, it feels like I have momentum. I might stay going on this lab a little bit longer than expected just to get all these tasks knocked out. Instead of Recoup chat, we got to change our repository. The only thing is I do get slower when I'm live, but I don't want to overthink it right now. We're in the flow, and so as long as we're in the flow, let's stay in the flow. Focus less on the friction and more on your conscious attention to come back to these tasks and get them knocked out. What you focus on grows, what you think about expands, what you dwell upon determines your destiny. The current task we're on is adding pagination and limits to the fans endpoint. We completed the task locally. I'm trying to ship it. We changed 6 files here. That sounds like more than expected, but before I go into the report, I'm going to crash, go into Slack, send me change. Go up a little bit. I like the stairs. Fans, pagination, and limit. Document the ticket. Send this out. Can send the exact example request that I used. Test locally. I like seeing the metadata, like the total amount just right here. Me gusta mucho. Okay, so we've added in our new Scratchpad file, which I think it used quite well. Let me check it out again. But it's Scratchpad file. I think it was updating constantly, and it updated with its next steps. After implementing pagination for API fans, we need to implement similar functionality for the post endpoint in the next step. I think, yeah, it's already added all of its checks, so it's been using the Scratchpad perfectly. Let's go back to our review. Scratchpad, it's using it. Overall, these lessons look like what it at least had. Don't want to look too deep into this because this wasn't the main change. TypeScript, rules, look good. Cursor rules we deleted, that's the past. We don't use the cursor rules file anymore. Now use the cursor directory, rules directory, and then all of your rules files. Global controller was updated for the get fans function to add in the queries. We then add some comments and parse the limits and parse the page. Like this is you can just read the code and get that easily. You don't need to add those notes. So I'll manually remove those notes because global controller, get rid of less is more. And I don't know why it upsets me, but I like having less code. New cat entered the chat. Refresh the pull request. I've already shared everything. This was a simple cleanup to remove the comments. We can now ship this and move on to our next task. I'll verify that we didn't get any slower in prod as well. Looking good. Let's ship it. The overall MIQ, I haven't really been focusing on that for this stream this morning, but I'll say it now because it's on my mind. How can I build a lightning fast fans page to verify that scraping data is complete on Recoup? I've shipped this. That is pull request number 3 that we've shipped for this stream. We are at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, Google, what's 75 divided by 3? Approximately 25 minutes per pull request is our current pace. Let's see how we do next. We go back to our code base. It's in a weird order. It's throwing me off. We'll move it over here. Now I go into linear. It should have auto marked as done. It did. Go out to our main list of tasks. One more task for our server side. Open up that task, copy the branch name, go back into cursor, go to the Get tab, 3 dots, check out 2, paste the branch name, create a new branch. Push that branch, let's get it off of our computer, get it up into the cloud. Once we do that, we'll sync with the latest from main. Pull from main. We'll then have the new changes and then we'll sync those. We're now ready to get started on our new task. We'll go over to roadmap. Pagination limits we just did for fans, mark that with an X. Before I move on, let's make sure that it has been updated. Here's what it was before. I should now be able to just refresh and see the new pagination info. Let's see if that's the case. Fans, yep, there we go. We've now updated to use pagination. If I change this to page 2, we get, or like page 5, we'll get back the information for page 5. And now did this change at all how we're getting back data on prod? Before we were getting 695 milliseconds. We're now getting 1,000 milliseconds for the first 200 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds. So it actually seems faster. And now we're closer to like an expected response time on an API, 200 milliseconds. Actually seems like it sped us up a little bit on the deployed instance, which I am grateful for. This was great. Let's keep moving. Next up, we'll just tell it. Or your scratch pad for step 46. We send off that request and let's see if we get any better on this shot than we did on the last one, knowing the updates we were able to just, oh, whoops. I forgot to send it the docs. Not that that helped last time, but let's try going to docs/posts. Copy all this. Here's the docs. Give it the docs first. Send that out. Now let it get going. Okay, so we have done 3 tasks out of 5. While it is thinking and updating its Scratchpad, let me, overall MIQ for today, how can I build a lightning fast fans page to verify the scraping data is complete? We have already updated the docs for fans to include pagination and limits. We have updated the docs page for posts to include pagination and limits. We just updated the API for fans to include the implementation of those pagination and limits from our docs. We're now doing the same thing on our posts endpoint. And once we do, we'll be able to write the pages. We've got our Scratchpad implementing pagination and limits. Task overview, it'll implement pagination limits for the post endpoint according to the requirements. We already have the post endpoint defined in routes. We need to examine the implementation, understand everything. Based on our previous work, we'll follow a similar approach. We'll add the pagination and limit parameters according to the official docs. We need the artist account ID, which is required, as well as the page and limit, which are optional. We include the example posts and then the pagination response. The pagination object, it looks like it's already updating this to say that it's finishing a lot of this. Looks like it's already updated global controller, and it updated the get artist posts function and update get posts to accept the pagination params. So it looks like there might be 3 files that have been changed. I'll just accept this and start reviewing overall what it changed. It updated Scratchpad. Oh, has it not actually? Oh, okay, so it has just finished the examination. It didn't implement anything. The next step would be to implement these changes into the actual code files. So let's just tell it yes. Please implement these changes into the actual code files. So far, liking where it is going. It seems like it learned in the last request I gave it, and this time it is understanding the requirements more accurately based off of how I defined them in the first initial attempt. For this task, there was our first shot of getting it set up with its Scratchpad. It's done the Scratchpad. The Scratchpad's looking good, and now it's going to actually implement those changes, and we'll get to see how well it implements those changes. First, it's updating the get artist posts file to allow us to pass in pagination info, and it will return the pagination info. This function returns an object containing the status, the array of posts, and the pagination metadata. And it is doing the same stuff with the empty response generation, so I don't need to repeat myself. It is still adding in some little comment files, which I'm going to remove, but not nearly as many as the last one. Let's save this. And then it moved on to the next file, which is global controller. The get post function was updated to accept those parameters. It then pulls them out. We then get the results. And we transform. Let's remove these docs or these comments. Not required. It's part of me guiding it, part of it on autocomplete. Was there any other docs that were updated? It looks like then it just went back into the Scratchpad. It only needed to update 2 files. Let's check again with PNPM start. Let's head over here, and now instead of fans, we're going to go to posts, POSTS, and let's just copy the raw request and send it into our localhost as well. Posts. Let's try the remote version first. Remote version on our production environment. You can already see it takes quite a bit longer. We just had 3 seconds to get a bunch of results, but that was 3 seconds on our deployed environment. 3 full seconds. Second request, 2 seconds. Third request, 2.6 seconds, so over 2.5 seconds, closer to 3. Request number 4, 2.5 seconds. Request number 5, 2.5 seconds. We're running on our local version. Let's see if it's any faster with our new implementation. First request, 3.5 seconds, still pretty slow. API posts, second request, 2 seconds, faster than prod. 1.7 seconds, so just under 2 seconds. 2.8 seconds, closer to 3 for request number 4. under 2 seconds for request number 5. So it does seem significantly faster. It's still way slower than I want at 1.7 millisecond, 1,700 milliseconds. It's still way slower of a request than I want it to be, but we're at least moving in the right direction. So I'm going to commit this and call this a successful update. And then I'm going to also throw in step 4.5 on this one to see if there's any other recommendations for querying that we can do to optimize this. This is for posts. So posts is currently, it takes a lot for us to get all of the posts. Is that because I just have more records? I mean, I think it's because I just have more records, but even when I'm doing pagination here, I do have 2,000 records, which is quite a lot. So I have 107 pages of info. But I'm not a major creator. There's creators out there that are publishing more than me. And so we need to be able to account for large data sets and keep our requests fast. Let's state all the changes, paste the roadmap, note, commit it, make sure we're on the right branch before we push it. Yep. We'll sync those changes. And I mean, it's not 5+ seconds, but it's 1.7+ seconds. Less than, I want to make it angel numbers here, so let's go 333. Awesome work so far. And for step 46.5. The Supabase schema types in your research preparation. Reference the Supabase schema types in your research preparation. And let me add those schema types. Supabase. Nope, it's inside of types. And let's send that off and see if we get a 46.5. I've already pushed the changes, so while it thinks and tries to implement, I'm going to move forward and assume that we want to ship what we've got. So let's go back to pull requests, and we should get auto prompted. There's our pull request. This is pull request number 4 of 5 for the day. Looks like global controller get posts, added the params. Looking good. Everything looking great. Go back to the combo. Let's get this shared on Slack. Hashtag Recoup. Let's copy the ticket. API posts, pagination limits. Okay. Now let's share an example request. Test locally. Example response. I think we ship it. Let's merge it. We have shipped 4 out of 5. If these local changes prove to have any effect, we'll make a new ticket for them. Oh, it looks like it failed. They're experiencing high demand for 3.7 right now. Current time, 2:10 p.m., which means 12 p.m. on a Saturday in Eastern time in New York, which also means 9 a.m. in California, where all the AI bros are living. No. Whoops. That's my bad. API posts. Optimize for response speed. Yep. Do it again. Post send point to improve the response speed. I'll reference the database schema to help identify optimization opportunities. Let's see how well this can work for vibe coding. So I was able to build the initial endpoint using Cursor, and now I'm going to try to optimize it using Cursor. I like what it's got so far. Can we speed it up, make it more refined, make it more robust, so that this endpoint is actually something that not only our own internal agents can lean on, but can this be something that we can offer as a production grade service to other teams? I'm curious to see if it's able to do this. I'm running out of hot water. Current implementation currently takes 1.7 seconds. We want a response time of less than that, which is an 80% reduction. Current implementation involves multiple sequential database get queries, get account socials, get social post by IDs, get post by IDs, enrich posts with platform. Database schema analysis based on the database schema. The relevant tables are account socials, which links an account to the artist socials that it has. After that, the socials, which contain all the social profile information, social posts, which links socials to posts, and then posts, which contain information about the post, including its URL. Performance bottlenecks, we have multiple sequential queries. The current implementation makes several sequential database calls, each waiting for the previous to complete. Inefficient data retrieval, we're retrieving all social posts and then filtering them client side as inefficient. Redundant data processing, the enrich posts with platform function may be doing unnecessary work. And then lack of indexing. Some queries might not be using indexes effectively. Optimization strategies, combine the queries with joins. Let's use SQL joins to reduce the number of database calls. Let's use Supabase querying filters. Let's apply filters at the database level rather than the client side. Let's implement pagination at the database level, adding pagination in the SQL query rather than in memory. And then we'll optimize indexes, ensure proper indexes are in place for frequently queried columns. And then we will implement caches, considering caching frequently accessed data. Implementation plan. We're going to analyze the current implementation for each function, create a new optimized function that uses a single Supabase query with joins, applies pagination at the database level and returns properly formatted data. Update the get posts controller to use the new optimized function. Benchmark the performance before and after. Implementation, it'll start with analyzing the current implementation. Let's examine, create the optimized query, create artist post, get artist post optimized is getting from the post table. It's selecting ID, post URL, updated at, and then we're joining on social posts with social ID and on social post.social inner. I don't understand. We're doing account exact equals account ID updated at, and then we're doing a range with an offset and a limit. Big brain stuff I don't fully understand. And then we format the posts. Looking good. And then it'll update the controller to use the new posts function. Additional optimization considerations, database indexes, ensure the following columns have indexes: account ID, social ID, post.id. Query caching, consider implementing a caching layer for frequently accessed data. Use a memory cache like Redis or in-memory cache. Set an appropriate TTL based on how frequently posts are updated. Batch processing, if the optimized query is still slow, consider implementing batch processing. Split the query into smaller chunks, process them in parallel, combine the results. Denormalization, testing plan, awesome. Okay, Scratchpad provides a foundation. Okay, so what's the next step? I'm just going to tell it to proceed, I guess. Start by analyzing the current implementation. And then we'll look at get social posts by IDs. Get posts by IDs, and then enrich posts with platform. Now let's create the optimized function for retrieving posts. I'll create a new file called get artist posts optimized. It's now creating the new file based off of its research. Red lights flashing in my head and saying I should have had it document the results of its research before moving on to making updates. However, let's see what it does on one shot. Blind accept matches the previous response. And now we do a special join. Looks like the query's throwing some type errors on both fronts. So we'll want to try to update that. It looks like it's already working on fixing the errors. Let's accept. Looks like all the errors went away. Wow. It was able to fix all its errors on its own. Oh. I'm not seeing it doing any of those special joins it was talking about. Maybe this is it. Let's see if it's any faster. The controller, all that we're doing is swapping out one function call with the new function call. Let's accept it. Scratchpad's going to get updated with all the notes of all the changes it made. Let's start running it. PNPM start. Then I'll go back over to Postman. Before, we were getting over 1 second, under 2 seconds for our responses. We've just updated our indexing. Let's see if, do we still get the same data? We got 2,139 records before. Are we still getting the same record count? And is our speed increasing? Taking a little bit of time to load. There we go. Okay. 2,139 records before. Failed to fetch. Error counting posts. Failed response. Please debug in your, please debug and fix. Figix. Debug and fix, optimized query. Let me first examine the error message in the current implementation. I see that there's an issue with the query count. Let me check how the controller is using the function. Let's check the correct line range for the get post function. Now I understand the issue. Let me fix the problem and get artist optimized. The error is occurring in the count query. Yep. Let's modify the function to fix the issue. Sounds great. How are you getting your counts? Okay, we're applying some updates. Total posts equals post.length. And then down here, we're passing in total posts. And we're doing the same thing in get artist posts optimized. Similar thing down here. Let's accept it. Let's try it again. Can we optimize? The nice part about separating this out from our previous pull request is we already shipped the main thing we wanted to do, which let's check in with that, see if it's any faster. So before on prod, we were getting over 2 seconds, like 2.3. After prod update, let's get the first one, which is always going to be slow. 1.5, it's already faster than it was before, less than 2. Now we got under 1 second, something we weren't even seeing in locally before. Now we're seeing a half second. We're at least seeing under 1 second, 400 milliseconds. It actually seems like we're now in a respectable range on this API just by adding in the pagination. So this optimization, if we can get it to work, great. If not, I'm happy with the current results and we can move on to the final implementation. So we won't spend too much time here. If this doesn't work, we might start wrapping up. We're still failing to fetch. For now, we're getting, yeah. Let's give it 2 more iterations on this. New error. So far, we gave it the initial task. I only want a maximum of like 5 interactions with the AI here. So this is a side path and it's a small optimization, which we don't need right now. Okay, so we got proceed, I guess when it finally had everything right. Failed response, number 2. First failed response, but my first message. New error, and it looks like that's where we're at right now is 3. So it has 2 more attempts if it doesn't get this one of inputs from me. This file is definitely getting longer. So even if it is right, we're gonna have to spend time optimizing its queries. And it's also adding some console logging to try to debug what is going on. Let's crash this and try it again. It's already done 3. It gets 2 more attempts if this doesn't work, and then we'll just give up on this task and keep moving with the front end UI. I'm excited. I'm glad that it actually performs better than it was before. Not localhost, that one's going to fail. But in prod, like let me try getting page 5 instead of page 1 or page 11. Let's try page 11 with a limit of 100. Still under a second for the response. Follow-up queries are about the same. Seeing under a second. Loving that. Updating the docs. Okay, it's ready for me to test again. Go back to local. We get a successful response now. It's taking at least longer. Looks like we got a response. Took almost 3 seconds, making me wonder how could this be better than before. 1.7 seconds. 1.1 second. Can you get me under a second? Still at a second. We're sitting at a second, so it is potentially faster than before. Let's try page 11. Is it worth moving forward with this based off of where we're at right now? I don't think I want to move forward with this. This feels like a big pivot from where we were, and it already feels like we're making progress. So I think I want to move on to the fans page and stop this. So I'm going to crash this server. I'm going to roll back any changes I made, discard, and we're just going to keep moving on back to the front end. Delete the file and make sure that I crash the server. I did. We should be done in this repository for today. And I'll go back to the Recoup chat repo for our next steps. I already shared that we shipped this, didn't I? No, we haven't shipped this. Or we did ship it, but I didn't share that we shipped it. Why wouldn't I have shared that we had shipped it? I believe this one was also shipped. It was. Okay, we shipped 4 pull requests today. Let's move on to the front end repo. Let's make sure that we're checked out to the right branch. And let's make sure real quick that if I go over to posts, that I can still see all my posts and that I haven't broken the prod page with my endpoint changes. It looks like we're still getting results. However, I'm not sure I like the ordering. Before we were getting the most recent posts. And now the posts seem older. And Twitter, for all context, seems to load slow. But we are getting a bunch of Twitter posts. All right, so we didn't break it. It's not the best it could be. I've now realized I want to implement ordering of latest first, but let's not over focus on this page. Let's keep moving on. Overall question that we're building towards is how can I build a lightning fast fan page to verify that scraping data is complete? Make sure that I'm checked out to the right branch. Fans page, publish the branch. We will pull the latest changes from main. And sync those changes. Update your scratch pad for step 39. And then we can use Command J to open up our terminal, which we will use to run npm start. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to crash all the servers over here just to make sure we're saving energy to optimize on our stream. Again, I'm done here for the day, so I'll close it. If I need to open it again, I will. I'm trying to keep our work environment light. Scratchpad getting updated as we speak. Requirements, create a new route fans in the chat app that displays the results from API fans. Use the parameter from the active artist, display the API response as follows. If social avatar is present, display it as a grid of circular profile pictures. If social.avatar is not present, display the entry in an unordered list at the bottom of the page. Current status, there's currently no page in the chat app to display. We need to create the new route with the page component, implement components to display fans with avatars in the grid and fans without avatars. We'll start to implement. It'll create the page route as a client component, get the active artist from the provider, create a layout with the grid section for the fans with avatars and a section for fans without avatars. And then it will create a custom hook for data fetching. We should be using TanStack React query for custom hook for data fetching, so I'll make sure that we do that. And then it'll even create all the components, fans wrapper, fans avatar, fans list, fans skeleton, to get all those UI components. Type definitions, it got those. Progress, it should create the page structure first, create the hook, implement the components, implement styling. I like how it's thinking, create the page first, then do the hook for querying, then create the individual components, and finally implement styling. That seems like how I like to build as well. Did it make any updates? Updated its Scratchpad, reading existing files, and now it looks like it's trying to update the Scratchpad with more detailed implementation plans based off of its research. Let's see where it started. It updated all of its implementation plan for this. Create custom hook for data fetching. Create the use artist fans. It defines the interfaces, implements a function, use similar use artist posts. It's using React query, so now it knows to use React query. And then it'll create the new directory for the fan components, and then create the page. Implement the wrapper component. Load more. Split fans into two groups, avatars and without avatars. Handle loading and error states. Pass data to the components. Implement the fans components. Implement yada yada. Wow, boom, it's doing it all. Let's see where we're at. I think you already made your edits, bro. I don't think you need to keep doing. I think I'm going to delete some of its past tasks. It's going to start implementing the first component, custom hook for data fetching, use artist fans hook, which will be similar to the existing use artist post hook, but tailored to fetching fan data. Now let's create the hook. We already have that. I don't know why it's trying to create it again. The socials type already exists somewhere else, but directionally looking good. Looks like we're now using pagination. And now it's going to generate the page. Simple page. Looking good. We're missing components, obviously. Overall looking good so far. Now it's creating the fans components folder, and then it'll start writing the fans wrapper component. Eating a little snack while it does its thing. Anything else? Looks like it's saying it might be done. Sounds like we might be ready. Took us just under 2 hours to get to the point of implementing the front end. Let's try going to fans. No existing files have been modified. We only have new untracked files. It's taken a while to do the compile. What version of Next.js are we on? Are we on 15.2 yet? Next, we're on 14.2. We can do a full update, full version update. I wonder if there's any breaking changes. Next.js migrate from 14 to 15. Update. If you see a peer dependency warning, you may need to update React and React DOM. I mean, is it that easy? Do I just do that update? Looks like it might be an easy update. We're still compiling them. Okay, it looks like we finally got the result in 143 seconds. Super slow. I'm going to keep it in the mobile view to see how it comes out. First shot, artist fans. My first instinct is it's already too big. I would at least like 3 profiles in the grid. Right now it's only 2 on mobile. But if we get, let's see if we first get results. I see 2 skeleton sections, one for the written artists and one for the ones with PFPs. Still waiting for invalid SRC. It's not configured. Okay, so let's go to our console and we should see it over there. Let's see if that's the case. Next.js 14 is outdated. Thanks. Let's get out of mobile just for a second so that I can copy the error. We're starting to lag, starting to go slow. This error is related to our Next.js config and the fact that we are trying to show Twitter images, which we're not currently supporting in our Next.js config. Yep, external sources like Twitter. Let's fix this by updating the Next.js config. The alternative is not using Next.js image resolution, but that defeats a little bit of the purpose of using Next.js. The image optimization and resolution is a great benefit of building on Next. It's now gonna found the file. Looks like we're, Imgur and then decentralized content. And now it added a bunch of other files. Save that. Any better? Restarting the server to apply the change because it's a Next.js config change. And it's also going to update the fan component to handle potential image loading errors. If there's an image error, we should use a placeholder image. So it's doing a little bit of image error handling right now. And it's going to try to make the placeholder image. Sounds great. Is it actually going to be able to generate the image for me? Create a simple placeholder avatar in the data URL using a data URL in our component instead. Okay. Fan avatar. Placeholder image is going to use a placeholder avatar, which is, it created an image. Wow. Look at that. Let's also update the fan wrapper component to handle the case where the API might return a different structure than expected. Any updates here? Is it same and now TW image is thrown in the air? We're compiling fans again. Fans and as array. We're doing some conversion type stuff here. Don't know if I like that it's starting to grow in complexity, but I can do some manicuring later on. Make it work, make it right, make it awesome. We're still on the make it work step. We haven't gotten the page to load. We got the page to load with a skeleton, so we're in the right direction. We got the loading state looking good. We have not yet gotten the actual functional side working yet, and that's what we're focused on, is how can we get the page load to work such that after skeletons, we actually get live data. Long compilation, multiple minutes at a minimum. We are slow. What might be running? We've got a stream. That's definitely going to be slowing us down. Anything else other than a stream? I don't have many things open, so it's got to just be the stream. Or this fans page is just fat, very massive. Maybe I crash the server and restart it. It's really going slow, so I'm going to try that. Just crash it. Make sure it's fully just shut down. Let's do it again. Starting. Ready in 13 seconds. Let's try loading the page again. All right, we're back to compiling fans. Ideal compilation time is less than 15 seconds for initial compile. If it takes longer than 60, it starts to impact the ability for devs to iterate quickly. And this happens when I get deep into a live stream. We start to slow down in our build. It's still taking a while to compile fans. We're still not seeing it any faster. Which is telling me that restarting the server did not fix it. I want to get this full video with the final page creation so that we can really emphasize we started with just an idea, we updated API endpoints, and boom, here's the results of that. Looks like it might be about to finish. Finished in 104 seconds, so just about 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, but quite a few minutes, a couple, just under a couple. Any updates this time? We see the skeleton. Okay, I see fans without pictures. It looks like it's also loaded some people with pictures. Alex Masmej, Brader Bradley, Colombo Records, Neutro Arts, only KASP fans, Bmojit. Is it going to go and load more? And then we see these people down here who are showing 0 followers. How's it looking on mobile? If we flop over to mobile. Interesting, the icon it made. Can you update the grid layout? Actual 2 columns on mobile required. Let's make it, how many do I actually want? I'm thinking 5. Like we should be able to fit quite a few fans in here. 5 columns, smaller images to fit on mobile. But we're at least getting in the right direction. I am seeing photos of some of my fans. It's not fetching more, so I need it to actually continue to query as I scroll down the page and get to the end. I'll update the grid layout to display 5 columns on mobile instead of 2. Let's modify fan to adjust the grid layout. Sounds excellent. Slowly making progress. accept, fast refresh, rebuilding. And it's also going to update the fan avatar to make sure it works well with the smaller size on mobile. And it looks like it made those changes. And then it'll also update the fan skeleton component to match the new grid layout. Looks like it's actually getting bigger instead of smaller. Update our scratch pad to document the changes. So far it looks bigger, not smaller. Looks like we moved in the wrong direction. But let's refresh and see if that's still the case. Skeletons are looking better on the grid. I'm seeing 5 columns on mobile. I'm officially out of water. Now we loaded a grid of 5 wide. Feeling better about it. And if I click on it, it opens up that profile. Love that little touch. Looking better. Now we need to update the pagination to fetch new records as I scroll down to the bottom of the list of PFPs. Currently, I can reach the end and it stays stuck on the first page, period. What is required is that as I scroll down the page, our hook automatically paginates and adds more PFPs into the list using the existing pagination parameters in the API endpoint. Did it finish writing? We'll keep waiting. I don't know if I added an image. I want to add an image. Do I end the stream now to speed it up, or do I get more water? Those feel like the 2 options I want to give myself. Only showing limited number of fans and not properly fetching. Let's modify use artist fans hook in the fans wrapper to implement proper infinite scrolling with API pagination. Now we are using infinite query and using infinite query result. And then we'll update the fans wrapper component to work with the updated hook. Making a whole bunch of changes. I don't want to read through it, so I'm just going to accept. Looks like we're getting some errors here. Fix the linter errors, please. It's already on it. Accept the change. Still getting a couple linter errors. Remaining linter errors. Now you got a couple new ones here, but that's just because we can delete that import. That's an easy one to fix. Didn't fix these errors. Let me get some hot water. I will be here, but my camera will be off for a little. Okay, I'm still not seeing it. fix the error. You know, like this is still the same thing. Any updates here? It's still going. Still no pages. Data is coming from use artist fans. Have you confirmed pages param exists? I mean, I don't even know where it's getting these types from. We are truly vibe coding on this. TypeScript errors are not fixed, my friend. And I'm not seeing any images being loaded. So I am not confident that your changes have fixed anything. We got the skeleton. Can we get real data? Seeing some errors, seeing some PFPs. So how do we load more data? Loading more fans. And now we get more PFPs. Look at that. And now if I scroll all the way down to here, it should load some more, and then we should be able to go back up. Uh-oh, did it crash? rweave.net is missing. That's fine, let's get rweave in there. We'll go to next.config.mjs. Next. rweave.net. And so now it's going to restart the server, but I'm happy overall. Let's get this pushed. Let's get this pushed, and we'll think through how we want to paginate the data later. Now we're going to go over to GitHub, open up a pull request, and start reviewing our deployed environment. go to the fans page. Could you please update the pagination logic to simply continue querying pages until all the pages have been queried? Right now, it seems like we are querying new pages on scrolling, and I would like to get rid of any logic determined by scrolling and instead just continue to query the pages in a way that keeps the code minimal and reduces the likelihood of crashing the page from too many queries over a small period of time. Could you please update the pagination logic to simply continue querying the pages until all pages have been queried right now? Right now, it seems like we are querying new pages on scrolling, and I would like to get rid of any logic determined by scrolling and instead just continue to query pages in a way that keeps the code minimal and reduces the likelihood of crashing the page from too many queries over a small period of time. Sounds like a plan. How's our build going? We're building. I don't think we should have any page loads over here yet. Yeah, it looks like the fans page does not really exist. Reduce the risk of overwhelming the API with too many requests in a short time. Sounds perfect. Please, please, please do. Use infinite query, we get the query result. Use effect, we automatically do it every half second. It looks like we're doing something weird now. Build's going longer, making me feel optimistic. Oh, it's ready. Let's try refreshing our prod page and see if we at least get some results. Refresh and prod. I see images, more images are loading in. I see a whole bunch of fans. I'm seeing all my fans in here. Look at all y'all. Look at all these fans I have. I recognize a lot of you. And then I've got a lot of people who I don't have identified with proper info. And so I can start to find some of these missing fans. This is great. Let's see if I can swap over to someone else. Let's try, I don't even know who I've been scraping. Let's try Mackin's Minds. One so far. Only one. Did we fix all of the errors? Looks like we might have fixed all the errors. Oh, it's still doing stuff. Why are you doing this? Revert. Stop, please. Cool. Got it to stop. Can we go back to me? That avatar, that PFP will definitely need change. That looks so funny. Let's try scraping a new artist, and I'm going to make it Mackin's Minds like always. Twitter looks correct. Instagram is probably correct. And then we'll verify TikTok. Let's run it. See if our results get any better this time. Scrape the profile, and then we'll check out the fans created. Start reviewing the code. The initial page, basic. to use shadcn's avatar component, which includes a fallback value instead of manually defining an SVG for the fallback placeholder. How are we doing on the scraping? Looks like we're in the segmentation stage. There we go. Look at that. We got a couple fans. All right, now that we've got some segments, let's try going over to fans. How are the fans looking? Load the skeleton. We see some PFPs loading in. And it looks like we're still scraped. We've still got a couple more. It's nice to see me inside of his list. Nice. So most of the fans we're still not pulling correct social information from, which is great to know. Some of them we are. So my goal is to get this list empty at the bottom. When we scrape, we should not be getting empty profiles. We need this list, the bottom list, to be empty and the top list to be full. That way we know that we're properly scraping segments. Feeling happy with the overall direction though. What did we change in this? We added shadcn's avatar, and we updated the fan avatar component to use it. Let's check out if there's any errors inside of fan avatar. It doesn't look like it. Fan avatar uses shadcn avatar component. Let's commit this, sync the changes. Let's go back to the review. I already put this in my Slack channel. I have. Let's also see how it looks on mobile. Let's refresh, inspect. Let's give it yield, refresh. Why are you defining new type that you defined different from what is already defined here? Leverage the existing type from the database schema instead of defining a new social type here in the hook, question mark. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it. Looks like the AI is liking what it did. Let's go to the fan avatar component and remove some of those comments. Fan avatar. Getting the initials. Remove dev comments. We should have finished deploying by now. Let's see if we're using our new fallback avatar instead of this avatar. Nice. The only thing is that the fallback is smaller. Confused why avatar fallback is smaller, but I'll ignore it for now. think we're good to ship. Let's try scraping city limits again. Let's go to agents. We should be good to crash all servers here. We're going to start to be wrapping up for the day. Wrapping up for the stream at least. Curious why it took us here. All we were pulling before was Instagram, so that's what we'll do now. We'll keep just pulling Instagram. Scrape it. Most important question, how can I build a lightning fast fans page to verify scraping data is complete? I think we're just about there. I think I'm now seeing that there's missing images even on newly scraped profiles. And so now I need to start debugging why are these profile pics empty? Why are we missing the avatar, the following data, the bio? I'm now getting a clearer understanding of the data that we're accurately getting, which is going to allow me to fix the missing data so that way we can keep improving this product. I think the next step is, what's the MIQ after this? Which part of the scraping process? I guess why our overall goal is how can I reduce the number of profiles scraped without a profile pic? Well, not without, we'll say missing. How can I reduce the number of profiles scraped missing an avatar photo to 0? How can I reduce the number of profiles scraped missing an avatar photo to 0? How can I reduce the number of profiles scraped missing an avatar photo to 0? The next question after that is, which specific platforms are missing profile pics? Is it all of them or only some? Are all platforms missing? Some? Or only certain scrapers? Or only certain platforms instead of scrapers? Because if it's just one platform, I can refine the question even more. How can I reduce the number of profiles scraped missing an avatar from X or from Instagram or from TikTok? So it's still analyzing the posts. So once it analyzes all the posts, we'll be able to get the segments. And once we have segments, I can also check out the fans. How can I reduce the number of profiles scraped missing an avatar photo to 0? Started off this call, how can I build a lightning fast fans page to verify scraping data is complete? Are there any other changes that I wanted to make? I think I've fully reviewed the code. So code's all done. I just want to do one more test and see the fans showing up for a different artist. I've tested my own personal profile. I tested Mackin's Minds. We should be fully deployed. Yeah, everything's been deployed at this point. So we're just waiting for the scraping to finish. Scraper is taking longer than it has in the past, but we're getting more robust data each update I make. So it's this balance of expanding it to get more data and then optimizing it so that we have a faster initial results experience. Because you want the agent to be able to constantly get new information to make it smarter, but you also want a fast experience. And so finding a balance between scraping all of the socials across an artist platform and getting the most robust data set possible, as opposed to making the end experience fast and making it fast and feel instant. Reviewing of the videos, I believe, is also getting all the social profiles. It's taking a while. Hopefully this is because it is scraping a whole bunch of new profiles. Hopefully it's not that it's stuck. But at this point, that's where my emotional reactions are telling me is, oh, we've been seeing the same message for a while. Is it stuck? How do I know that it's actually still scraping? I would love to be able to see what it's actually doing right now. Is it getting more videos? Can I see the videos that it's getting? If it's updating social profiles, can I see what social profiles it's actively scraping and the data it's getting back? If I could be able to see the feedback in real time, I can start to see, that's the moment where it started to get incorrect info, whether it's an incorrect video, an incorrect post. I would like to be able to start sharing the results instantly as social proof. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. Sitting here waiting for this. I don't want to sit here and wait. I'm feeling impatient. If I'm feeling impatient, come back to bones. Coming back to the list of things I want to do today. We spent quite a bit of time coding this morning. We're at 3 hours and 8 minutes. Feeling restless, feeling like I want to move, feeling like I want to stand up, do something else, run around. How can I come back to what I want my focus to be on? What you focus on grows. What you think about expands. What you dwell upon determines your destiny. If I allow my mind to take over me, I allow the dog to rule the master. I don't want my mind to be taking control. So I come back to the most important questions. How can I get a list of usernames of profile follows on TikTok? That is a powerful one. That's going to be scraping. We're still missing PFP, so we're still not complete on our existing scraping. So I would argue before we move on to following, I want this list of missing profiles to go to 0. I'm really starting to wonder if this is still running or if there's an error. Look, the spinner fits perfectly inside of my little dot. Okay. Where we passed 3 hours, we're at 3 hours and 10 minutes. I want this to start wrapping up. I don't want to sit here forever. So I could check. I could check if the server's still running or if the server crashed. I guess that's what I'll do. Let's go to DigitalOcean. Swap out of Myco. Go over to switch teams inside of my team. And we'll find the Recoup droplet. Copy the IP address. Let's find our terminal. Maximize that. We don't need Postman anymore. Let's SSH into the droplet. Looks like it's still, oh. No additional data found. Cannot find .env or its corresponding type declarations. So it looks like let's look into that. Let's stop and let's ls and go into Recoup agent APIs. Let's cat package.json. Do we have .env in here? .env is there. Let's ls. Do we have pnp? We do have pnp lock, so let's go pnpmi and install that missing package. It says it's already up to date, so we should have .env installed. Curious why it's saying that .env is missing. But it does look like it's still running, and there's just a lot of profiles that we're running through. No bio found. We're getting HTML. Welcome back to Instagram. Sign in. Okay. So it seems like our scraper is not working for these profiles. Instagram scraping is failing right now. Let me try to fetch it. Looks like I am getting different info because when I'm querying this, I'm getting back info, but the DigitalOcean droplet is not, which makes me think that our DigitalOcean droplet might be getting censored. And so I'm starting to wonder if we need to be swapping our IPs or doing something to allow us to not get blocked on our scraping. Let me try that same request here that I just did in my other terminal. It would be curl. And we're getting nothing back? What? It's not showing me the results if there are. But when I do it over here, I do see it, right? Yeah, I'm getting a whole bunch of results when I run the query. But when I run it from here, I'm not getting anything. Or its corresponding type declarations. All right, so we are seeing some errors. The scraper is still working. It looks like it'll be going for a while. Let me just try checking out the fans. It might be saving them fans, but it might not because it hasn't generated any segments yet, and without segments, I'm not sure we're going to get fans. No fans. Okay, so we've got, we have a page for fans. We're still working on scraping our accounts. This seems like one of the bigger accounts that we're scraping. But so far our scraper is failing to pull Instagram profiles. And I have a feeling we're getting blocked. As a result, I think we need to use a VPN or some service to change up the IPs where these requests are coming from. And I also want to try to run more of these in parallel because right now it's really slow. We got another 23 to do at least. So it seems like our scraping numbers have gone up, but we're not getting any data out of this. That's a good question for me to be writing down. So let's write down that question. Why is prod Instagram scraper failing so many requests? For profile scraping. Is our IP being blocked? And now it's got another 50 to go through. So it's still taking its time doing all the scraping. While it's doing that, I'm going to keep diving into what's going on. Do we already? No, we don't. Cursor / we don't have this open. Let's just copy some of those raw logs. It looks like a lot of our Instagram scraping is failing. I have a feeling the IP in our ocean droplet is being filtered or blocked by Instagram, period. What options do we have to navigate around? Not navigate around. Instagram scraper working in a more robust manner in production. First and reflect on with me so that we can align on a correct implementation plan, period. Check out to main. Let's pull. I'm thinking right now we want to use Smart Proxy. And if I'm understanding Smart Proxy right, we get data from any website. And so we will just, instead of directly fetching from the URL, we'll use their API to fetch, which will allow us to hopefully circumnavigate IP blocking that Instagram is doing and allow our scraping to be more robust. We'll see if that is the case. I won't be doing that during this video though, so that'll be something I'll be doing casually on my own. I wanted to get this finished so that we can fully test. We'll wait till this 19, and if we don't get it after 19, I'm going to wrap up because this is starting to be a very long video. Build monthly, what? No, I don't want to pay that on a monthly basis. Being able to use crypto is nice. So I've got to spend $30 a month, which gives me 100,000 requests at 29 cents per 1,000 requests. A 100,000 requests is going to be 100,000 profiles scraped. It's quite a few profiles scraped. I would like to start with the free trial. And I don't want to check out. I just want to try it out first to see if it works. Oh my goodness, it's still scraping stuff. Good golly. City limits, we got a whole bunch of data for you. I'll probably run this and I'll do it. I'm going to test one more time. Let's verify that I can go to fans for myself and for at least one other profile. Yep, it looks like all my fans are slowly starting to roll in. And let's try checking out someone else, like Hip Hop Heaven, or maybe Kendrick, Crecimiento. Seems like it's working. So I'm going to ship this and then we will wrap up. It's been a long video, so I appreciate everybody who has stayed tuning in. All right, and with that, I'm going to start wrapping up. I'll stop sharing screen. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Make sure you click the like button, click the subscribe button, leave a comment down below of whatever you got as the most important part of this video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you later on today, most likely.